about your mom, because I've heard so many lovely things. I've heard she loved Christmas and she loved making the smallest
Hmm.
thing like a celebration. And I want our
Yeah.
listeners to have a better idea of who your family members were before, these horrible 2 days. What were some of your mom's
Hmm.
favorite things?
My mom had this energy that when she walked in a room, the whole, like it, she just attracted goodness and positivity and light. Like she was truly a light. And like she had this effortless or seemingly effortless way of making even the most mundane things magical. And so like I never realized growing up that like oh like your parents make Christmas like magical, but the magic that was behind these big family gatherings and events and holidays, it all came from her heart because she truly just she made the world a better place.
It seems like
She
that's
did.
what lit her up, is to make other people like
It
happy and to
is.
see that on their faces, right?
Yeah.
I,
It
s-
truly is. And
I,
she was
go ahead.
down to earth and real. And she was never one of those people that just like tried to put on a fake face. She just she just was authentically herself. And she was so good that it drew good people to her. And as a kid, I would watch her walk into rooms and they'd light up. And the way she could walk through a room and everyone would just want to talk to her and speak to her and be her friend. And I like I felt honored to have her as a mom. And she was that mom growing up that like my friends came over before school dances and we all got ready and we'd do tennis and then come over there before we did like cotillion growing up. And so we all get ready for that together after. And she would she would make even like a normal Friday routine seem fun and magical. And so as a parent, I've really taken that to heart. And with my kids, I try to make magic even in the smallest ways I can. And I really try to keep that going because I know that she would have.
Yeah. And your
Yeah.
dad, obviously, I mean, there's such big personalities, and this is
Oh
obviously
yeah.
from the outside, but you hear all these different people talking about them. It's like obviously he had a passion for business, nearly realizing
Oh
the
yeah.
dojo that he dreamed about for so many years right before
He
his life was
always dreamed of
taken.
opening his own dojo.
Yeah. I mean, tell
He
me
did.
about, he was a big family guy. Like tell me about your dad, and what
Okay.
was the dojo thing? How did that come about?
My dad, um, he was an incredible man. I have the he was the most patient man.
Well, he had two teenage daughters, so I
That's
can see. Yeah.
true. But we were always like bubbling off the walls, and my dad was always he'd get so excited and passionate about these things, but he loved to travel, and he was secretly an excellent photographer and would bring his camera with him everywhere. He's the one that got me into taking pictures and sharing and like seeing the world through a lens.
Yeah.
Um, and we that's something we used to do together. Um, he was the most well-spoken person you'd ever meet. He could listen to someone talk and then just like he'd quietly be listening. And then he'd hit you with like a five-word sentence that stops you in your tracks. And you'd be like, oh my God, that's an excellent point.
He
Which
was
as a
just
teenager
quietly
wasn't
kind of,
great.
yeah, quietly taking it in, and then he'd
Yeah,
just, yeah, summarize it quickly.
exactly. Yeah. And he was well spoken and he was thoughtful. He was very, very thoughtful. And he was very aware of, he encouraged my mother to be her most authentic self. He never tried to stifle who she was, and he never tried to stifle who my sister and I were or my brother were. If we told him we wanted to do something, he's like, okay, let's do it. My brother said he wanted to race cars, and next thing you know, he's sponsored and on a team and racing. Like, He would enable you to pursue your dreams and would just he was my biggest advocate and biggest cheerleader.
I love that. And
Yeah.
they talked
I
about
knew
how,
that if I picked up the phone and called him, he would be there. Yeah.
oh, that's wonderful. That's a good memory to have of your dad.
Yeah.
Have you been back at all to any of like to his
Yeah.
business or because I know it was your grandfather's business, so it became his. American Ironworks, is it still operating as far as you
Mhm.
know, or what do you know about it, if anything?
Um, I I can't speak on it, but I do know that we sold it.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
I did not know that. Okay,
Yeah.
so you and Kat were both in high school at the time. Can you tell us about the
Mhm.
schools? Because I think when people heard you were in high school, it's like, oh, well, they're just down the street, but that wasn't the case. So can you kind of tell us about the schools and like, you guys were in different schools, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, we had always gone to the same school, but my sister and I are very different. So we decided in high school um, to go to different boarding schools. I had begged to go to boarding school. I had seen Zoe 101. And
Oh my
and I
gosh.
was like, this is where it's at.
You
And
wanted to feel like you were in a
I begged
movie. No, I'm
and begged to
kidding.
go to boarding school. And my father was like, abs wanted, I loved school. I was the kid with the color-coded notes. I would sell my notes and textbooks to other kids that were a grade below me so they could like have my notes. The color coding would match the highlighting in the textbook. Everything was so organized and there were diagrams.
Wow.
I was I loved school and I wanted to live at school. And
That is a very
I
specific thing. I mean, I feel
begged to
like
go to
most kids,
boarding school for like,
oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
yeah. I
Okay.
I had some friends from my sleepaway camp that went to boarding school,
Mhm.
and they were obsessed. And I heard nothing bad about it. I was like, I must go. And my father was like, I'm not going to send you away yet. You're like, I don't want you to go to boarding school yet. He's like, I want you to be at home. And I was like, let's just tour one. And if you still hate the idea, then I will never bring it up ever again. And at this point, I begged for like 3 years. So finally, he was like, sure. And, and as soon as I got into boarding school, he started telling everyone that it was his idea. He's like, oh, yeah, it was totally my idea because it was that great.
And then Kat
So
wanted to do it
we were
because
both
you didn't.
away at boarding school.
Oh my gosh. And so that's
Yeah, it worked. It's such a great environment.
and you went to remind me of the names. Mercersburg, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And then Kat went to a different school. And I know she's been much
Yes.
more even from the beginning. Neither one of you all were at the trial, and I understand. I mean, I think I understand why, because how difficult it would have been. But she hasn't been as, you know, open. She's not really on social media. And I know
Mhm.
before we spoke today, I asked you if she would mind sharing any details of where she is now or what she's up to. But I also want to respect the fact that she's not into sharing about herself. So, do you can you tell us like how she's doing?
Cat's great. Cat is not big into social media, and I am always going to fully respect that. But I I don't want to share anything about her because I don't want to overstep any of her boundaries.
That makes sense. But you guys are still
Yeah.
close, and she's like close
Oh
with your
yeah.
kiddos and all that.
Oh shit. The kids love her. We're super close.
Good.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah.
And is she living near you, or are you guys in different parts of the country?
We were living near each other, but I recently moved, so we're a little further, but I drive back to see her pretty often.
I love it. Um,
Mhm.
and can you tell me, because you were in both in boarding schools and you were in different schools, how did you find out that this happened? Did family call
Mhm.
you?
Um, I got a call, and all I heard on the call was there was a fire. And I put down the phone and I looked it up, and sure enough, there were sorry, I'm getting another call. Uh,
Reject them. No, I'm kidding.
no, I know. I just don't know how to reopen this screen.
There we go.
Okay, I got it. Okay.
So you got a call there
Um,
was a fire.
yeah, so I got a call and just was there was a fire. And I looked it up and sure enough there I was seeing on the news, like trying to piece together what all these different reporters were saying. And then I called my neighbor and they're like, yeah, their house was on fire. They have animals outside. We don't really know what's going on. And I was like, okay, are the dogs out? Like, have you seen any people?
Right.
And I'm trying to ask questions of the neighbors and figure out what's going on. And I obviously was freaked out. Um, and then, but I was trying to tell myself in my head, I was like, oh, maybe it was someone else in the house. Maybe uh, like maybe they weren't there.
Well, it
My
was the
brother
middle of
had
the
just gotten a
day.
concussion.
Right. And Philip just had the
Yeah, my
concussion.
brother had just gotten a concussion. And so I was like, maybe they were at a doctor's appointment, so they weren't in the house. So I was trying to come up with all these things, as normal people do in
Right.
situations like that. You try and come up with, oh, it could be anything else, not the worst case scenario. And unfortunately, it was the worst case scenario. And then we were called, at least I was called to the headmaster's office and sat down and they're like, we got a call from the detectives. You have to stay. They didn't know if I was safe or not. And so obviously, and so they didn't know if these people were going to be immediately coming after my sister and I. And so they kept us like basically locked away, but I got to call, I can't speak on her experience, but I called Haley, my roommate, and I was like, can you come? And so she came and hung out with me. And then I had to sleep in the headmaster's like guest room or like the guest house of the school because they had to have extra security on site that night
Wow.
before I
Yeah.
went back because they didn't know where to send me. I was 19. Like it's not like, oh, like someone can come pick her up.
Right.
Anyone who would have come pick me up was gone. So they held me overnight and kept me safe. And it just became a giant whirlwind because it was like 2 days before my senior prom. And so my mom was supposed to come up to help me get ready. And we had talked on the phone about it. And like, I had no idea any of this had even happened.
Did they tell you that your parents had lost their lives and Philip had lost, or was it just like there was a fire, we want to keep you safe, and they didn't want to share too much information until your grandparents or
They only
whoever?
told me that there were three bodies, but they couldn't tell me because it took them a long time to identify um, them. So they couldn't tell me who they were.
Mm. But you couldn't get in touch with them.
No, which was very weird. And I had tried to call them the night before and couldn't get in touch with them. And they always answered their phones. But I thought they'd just fallen asleep because of my brother having a concussion.
Right. And probably being up all night the night before or something with him, and you
Yeah.
never know. Yeah, because you're like you
Yeah.
said, you try and make these things connect to make it make sense, and it wasn't making
Yeah. I
sense.
was like, yeah, you try to like figure it out in your head and try to make it, you try to come up with a scenario that totally didn't happen to make you, you feel like to try and make it so that the reality isn't the reality. And then, of course, it ends up being the worst case scenario in my case. And it just, it was terrible. Yeah.
Yeah, there's no other way. I mean, there's a lot of adjectives you can use, but I can't imagine being in your position and
Yeah.
just being helpless, really, because you can't reach out to anybody and you're stuck in this headmaster's office.
No. And
I mean,
yeah. And then I'm back in DC right after. And I, while all my friends are picking out what dresses they're going to wear to walk for graduation, I was picking out what coffins to buy. And it was just, I didn't even know who I could call. So that's my sister and I really leaned on each other through that.